And now, the dramatic reading of the Sorting Hat's love. Dumbledore regally strode across the library, carrying something in the crook of his arm. He gently leaned over Hermione, who was studying alone at a table. "Hermione, I'm taking the Sorting Hat out while I dust my quarters. You wouldn't mind watching him for a bit, would you?"
"Of course not, Dumbledore,"
Hermione said, smiling. She was pleased Dumbledore needed her help, even for such a mundane task. Dumbledore plopped the hat down on a table near Hermione, patted her on the head, and once again regally walked away. Hermione returned to her studying when a gruff sing-song voice chimed. "What you doing, Dragonfire?"
"Excuse me?"
Hermione looked around the room curiously. The Sorting Hat hopped from his table and landed in front of Hermione. His voice took on a deep baritone, and he began to sing. It reminded Hermione of her mom's Smuggle 70s records. "You're as hot as dragon's fire, filling me with desire. Your small tits and big ass make my wand grow into a staff. Say you want me to. We don't have to make love, just screw." Hermione's mouth dropped open.
What?
She stumbled. The Sorting Hat leaned closer. "I never forgot how good it felt to sit on your head your first year, Hermione. I've wanted you ever since." Hermione awoke from her shocked state.
"What are you talking about? This is crazy. You can't even shag anyone. You're a hat."
The Sorting Hat came face to face with Hermione, his stitched eyes boring into hers. "Don't knock it till you've tried it. I can do things to you no wizard your age can imagine."
"That's disgusting. You're disgusting,"
Hermione admonished.
"I'm going to tell Dumbledore."
"Do you want to see where my penis is?" the Sorting Hat offered.
"What?"
Hermione looked over the Sorting Hat doubtfully. She couldn't help but be a little curious, yet repulsed at the same time. The Sorting Hat sat on his table, his face contorted in concentration. He began to sink down like an accordion.
"What are you doing? Stop it!"
Hermione demanded. Suddenly, the Sorting Hat flipped inside out. On the now reversed point of the hat dangled a giant penis. His eyes and mouth transformed fully through the fabric. "Ta-da!" the Sorting Hat exclaimed proudly. Hermione stared in shock at the wobbling hat penis.
"Wait, that would mean every first year who puts you on would feel your penis on the top of their head."
"Don't flatter me that much, Hermione," the hat cooed. "I'm not quite that big, but sometimes if I scrunch down on someone with a particularly rounded head, I get a little tickle of contact. My semen is actually a very good conditioner for wizards and witches' hair, so sometimes I squirt a little surprise on them for when they get a chance. I don't see what there is to complain about, but stupid Dumbledore keeps an eye on me, and it's hard to get away with it." The hat finished grumpily.
"I'm speechless."
Hermione's mind, for the second time, she couldn't remember because her mind felt blank. "Do you want to touch it?" The Sorting Hat tipped his penis toward her, indicating. She did want to touch it, since it was a strange-colored penis that looked incredibly soft, like the rest of his ragged velvet body. But that would be ridiculous. She averted her eyes.
"Look, just turn yourself right side up."
The Sorting Hat caught her hesitation and moved in for the kill. "Look, no one is here but me and you. I won't tell anyone. My penis is as soft as butter and tastes like popcorn." Hermione was trying to analyze whether the last statement meant something positive or negative when the hat bounded forward and locked her in a kiss. She froze in surprise and a bit of horror as the Sorting Hat's mouth moved open and closed over her tongue, causing her to spit pieces of lint.
"What are you doing?"
she spat. "I know you want me, Hermione," the hat said huskily as he jumped into the air. Hermione watched him startled, almost in slow-mo, her mouth open. The hat's penis landed perfectly as planned in her widened mouth and began bobbing up and down. Hermione was almost too weirded out to take stock of the situation. She felt frozen in time, watching the hat's eyes squinting intensely. Before she had time to react, the hat groaned and a blob of gooey cum dripped down her throat. The hat jumped off and Hermione gagged.
"How dare you!"
she screamed at the hat. The hat looked dreamy-eyed and said, "You know you liked it," the hat said confidently. Hermione made a sound of fury and stormed out of the room. Next day, Hermione sat in the Great Hall, picking at her breakfast. "What's wrong with you, Hermione?" Ron asked.
"Nothing I want to talk about,"
Hermione said grumpily. Ron and Harry looked at her with concerned glances at the rest of the meal. Dinner was almost over when the door of the Great Hall opened. Dumbledore rose from his chair, and the Sorting Hat bounded down the center of the hall. Hermione's stomach dropped. The Sorting Hat reached the podium. He cleared his throat, and his voice boomed out as loud enough for everyone to hear. Hermione Granger, don't be a stranger. You're making me sob since you ran away after you gave me that blowjob. Please say you'll stay and make sweet love until I spray. McGonagall's eyes rolled to the back of her head and she fainted. Hermione was furious. The room was quiet in shock until Malfoy stood up. Are you that desperate you have to blow a hat? The rest of the Slytherin table broke out in laughter. Hermione jumped from her chair. She walked over to the hat and slapped it across the face, where it fell sideways onto the ground. She then ran out of the room. She turned me down for a bloody hat, Ron said jealously. Harry was too stunned to speak or respond to Ron's idiotic comment. Rain began to fall over Hogwarts. The Sorting Hat stood atop of one of the towers looking down. Why are you so angry, Hermione? The Hat thought to himself. Why don't you give me a chance? The Hat was having his first feelings for someone other than himself, and he didn't like it one bit. He looked down at the ground far below him. He hopped up on one of the tower railings. Goodbye, cruel world, the Hat intoned before he jumped from the edge of the tower. He closed his eyes, awaiting the end. A wind picked up, and the Hat spiraled, floating downward until he landed on the ground relatively unharmed. Oh, shit. That's right, I'm a hat. Later. Do you want to talk about it, Hermione? Harry asked through the closed bathroom door.
No, I don't. I've been humiliated enough.
Look, I won't judge you, Hermione. You know me better than that, Harry pleaded.
That disgusting Hat, he just started kissing me and then jumped in my mouth, and before I knew what was happening, he finished.
That sounds horrible. Harry felt terrible, but he was also trying not to giggle.
Sorting Hat has a penis?
Yes, I do, came a voice from down below. Harry looked down at the Sorting Hat.
What are you doing here? Haven't you caused enough trouble?
Look, just let me talk to the girl. I'll sort this all out. Go away! Hermione yelled through the door. The Sorting Hat used his considerable powers to open the door and easily undid Hermione's wards. He slammed the door behind him and hopped over to the bed where Hermione was sitting.
What are you doing here? Is there no way to be rid of you?
Look, Hermione, the Sorting Hat said reasonably. I know I'm a little crass sometimes, but just give me one more chance. Hermione eyed the Hat suspiciously.
No! Are you crazy? You humiliated me in front of everyone!
I would think telling everyone you gave blowjobs would improve your reputation. The Hat finished sagely.
Get out of here, you insufferable, hard, raggedy Hat!
Hermione sputtered furiously. Hermione, be reasonable. All I ask is you to give me one more chance. Give me one night to plow your sweetness, and you'll see I'm not such a bad guy. Hermione screamed in frustration as she kicked the Hat across the room. The Hat unfolded itself from the wall. I did not want to have to do this to you, Hermione, but you give me no choice. The Sorting Hat's eyes began to glow as he chanted. Hermione's face changed into a blank mask. When the chanting stopped, the Hat hopped over to her. He scrunched down and flipped over, exposing his penis. That's right, Hermione, the Hat cooed. Give us a ride. Hermione undressed and laid down. The Sorting Hat moved to her pussy and began trying to give oral. His cotton mouth opened and closed over her opening. He bit down on her clit and began chomping away.
Yes!
Hermione groaned in her drug-like state. Take me now, Hermione. The Hat groaned. Hermione gripped the cotton and polyester hat and glided his penis in her pussy. The Sorting Hat's sound of pleasure were muffled since Hermione's hand was over his mouth. Hermione gently rode the Sorting Hat, making his penis slick and wet. She increased her pace, and less than a minute later, the Sorting Hat began feeling close to coming. The Sorting Hat moaned in pleasure. He pumped Hermione full of hot semen and collapsed, falling deep asleep. Everyone began to notice a change in Hermione's behavior. She was quiet and distant, and had a faraway look in her eyes. She stopped hanging out with Ron and Harry, and disappeared after class. Something's wrong with Hermione, Ron told Harry, concern in his face. Ever since the Sorting Hat told everyone she gave him head in the Great Hall. Harry shook his head sadly. Do you think she's embarrassed? Is that why she's acting weird? Ron questioned, his brain hurting from concentration.
There's more to it than that, mate. I say we get under the invisibility cloak and follow her.
Later that day, Harry and Ron hid underneath the cloak and silently followed Hermione after she left class. She returned to her dormitory, where Harry and Ron managed to slip unnoticed through the door before it closed. They were met by quite a shock.